ICT Summit 2014, and Paul Jozefiak is here with me. Hi, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, and I know that you're doing some sort of a technical laboratory in your company, so you have a lot of companies at early stage, and then you decide which one are the most prospective one. How does it really work in a big company?
So we're taking kind of the venture capital approach. So we're trying to build a portfolio of companies, and the concept is to get to the minimum viable product, the typical MVP, and the lean approach to building businesses. So what we're doing is we're trying to experiment and launch a lot of businesses to see what works, and the goal is ultimately to have every year, maybe one or two companies that end up being successful. But for us, success is not measured by financial return. It's basically strategic return for the corporate. So what we're doing is we're launching companies very quickly. We're actually coding the software ourselves. We're putting the teams together ourselves. We're doing all the work to get a company off the ground, but we're using the resources of the corporate to basically leverage whatever we can to grow the business. And the way we do that is that we all work together. So the companies basically can also interact amongst one another, help each other. We have people who work on the team at Liquid Labs who are basically industry experts, including my co-founder and myself, who are both long-time VCs. And what we're trying to do is have kind of a very collaborative and kind of supportive infrastructure at Liquid Labs to help the teams grow. And at the same time, we're also pretty brutal about it. So in the sense that if something doesn't work, we really won't continue working on it. We're very quick to fail. So it's, the fail fast approach, because if we spend a lot of time trying to build a business that needs a long time to prove that it's going to work, it kind of breaks our model. We have to have that portfolio approach of having, one or two companies out of 10 projects end up being successful. And ultimately, we measure it in 3-year cycles. So the goal is to have one or two what we call exits. It's basically spinning the company out of Liquid Labs every 3 years. And so we're trying to start 3-4 companies a year. And to get those 3-4 companies off the ground, we're trying 20 different ideas, right? So we'll have a funnel, right? 20-25 ideas, 3 or 4 companies actually get started. And then 2 or 3 years later, only one of those companies might even exist. And it might even be less than one, right?
In a startup world, is quite a good statistic. You have 20?
It's the same thing. The venture community or the venture industry always says 1 out of 10 succeeds. That's not really true. Really good venture funds tend to have maybe half kind of successful. 1 is a home run, 2 are kind of good, 1 or 2 give you your money back, and then the other 5 are written off. It used to be in the late 90s, it was like 1 out of 10. And that's kind of become almost an outdated number. I think now the reality of the really good funds is that 50% of their companies have some level of success, be it a home run through to money back. And for a venture fund, it doesn't really make sense unless a company is returning 2 or 3x or more. The goal is always 10x for a company, but half of the companies are having some kind of success, which allows the portfolio and the fund to generate returns. And it's the same for us. We said 1 out of 10 might work out, but in the first 3 years that we've existed now, we've had 9 companies. We've already basically spun off 3, and some of those companies are still alive. So our return is also technically better than we initially had hoped for. But at the same time, it allows us to simply just shut companies down that don't work. We have limited resources. We don't have as much time per business. So what we try and do is take a very kind of digital approach. It either works or it doesn't. And if it's not working, kill it, put your time into the next project.
Could you give 2 or maybe 3 tips to Polish startuppers who are just starting their business, maybe at the first, very important, the early stage of a startup?
The first thing is just to get things done. One of the things that I've seen a lot of startups do wrong is just analyze instead of actually just doing things. So I think one of the biggest kind of hurdles and things that I would recommend as a tip is just get things done. The second thing I would say is be very cautious about your budget and your finances. Don't waste money. Office space, it just has to be office space. It doesn't have to be luxurious. Save your money for the best employees. So if you're going to spend money, spend it on your team. Don't waste it on trying to sponsor things or whatever. Just build your company, get the best people to build it. So the first tip is do it. Second thing is save the money to do it. And then the third tip I just said, get the best people you can. Invest all of your resources into getting the best people into your team, because the A team is always hiring other A players, and you just really want to surround yourself with people who are even potentially better than you if you're the founder, right? And those are probably the 3 things I would say are the most important for an early stage business.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And more information and more tips for young startuppers here at ICT Summit Warsaw 2014.